Welcome to Build in Norfolk. I'm Emma Bennett, Growth Manager at Invest Nebraska and Intersect Coworking and Incubator. This podcast is all about highlighting the builders, creators, and innovators shaping the future of Northeast Nebraska. Whether you're a startup founder, a small business owner, or just someone interested in the growing entrepreneurial ecosystem here, this podcast is for you. Today, we're kicking things off with a special episode. It's our official relaunch. I'm joined by someone who's played a big role behind the scenes, Hunter Bergman, founder of XPM and producer of Build in Norfolk. Hunter, welcome to the podcast.
I'm super excited to get back off and going. This is honestly the set and vision that I've been striving for, for the last episode. Now it's finally here to kind of relaunch it in a Norfolk fashion.
Yeah, only took us a couple years, but we got it. Awesome. So let's maybe start with a little bit of an intro. Tell us about yourself, XPM, and podcasts here in Norfolk.
Yeah, hopefully you've listened to the other podcasts and you've been jamming for a little bit with us. But I'm Hunter Bergman. I live in Norfolk, Nebraska right now, and I'm the president and founder of XPM. XPM stands for Experience Marketing, and we focus on helping medium-sized companies level up their marketing. And so we really just provide a marketing team service to make their life easier, get things done, planned out, and executed on time. So that's my full-time gig. And my part-time, I love, storytelling, media, and those types of things. So I'm super excited to help produce the show and bring it back to life from where it was to continue to tell those stories of people who are building in Norfolk.
Nice. You kind of talked a little bit, but what really inspired you to start XPM? When did you start? How did that come about?
That's a whole rabbit hole in itself. I think any good entrepreneur would tell you they just kind of fell into business. And ever since a young age, at a young age, I really was I want to build a company. So I'm not sure what that looks like. I don't really know. I was just listening to a lot of podcasts and I was in my basement. My mom heavily influenced me. She is an entrepreneur herself, and I just remember her buying Hastings was going out of business, and she's just natural. She sees opportunity, and she bought all the CDs and DVDs, and so a whole year we just had this rack of DVDs and CDs that she was selling on the internet. I don't know if it broke even or not, but that was what I grew up with. And so my mom bought this drop shipping course. She was I want to sell stuff on eBay. So I got into that, did that, started building websites at a young age, and then I was time to go to college, and I was I don't really know what I want to do, I really wanted to go to Berkeley, and I was I don't think that's gonna I don't think that's gonna happen, So I ended up going to Northeast, and I convinced myself that I could just take free online courses. Not the case. I'm a very kind of person, so I need that structure for growth. So I went to Northeast. My first semester I took entrepreneurship as a class, and I was okay, school's for me. Dove head over heels, heels over, I don't know, yeah.
Head over heels, yeah, you got it.
Head over heels into the academics, and I played soccer my first semester, got super involved on campus. What really ignited my love for media and storytelling and then transitioned to XPM was the student newspaper. It's called The Viewpoint at the time, and I really wanted to be Joe Rogan and travel around in my van and tell that story of people who are in the world and those types of things. And my friend I played soccer with, he's yo, you got to come meet Nancy. And I was all right, I'll come meet Nancy. Nancy was one of my first mentors, and she was let's get you a podcast. So she hooked me up with all the equipment, and she taught me how to do it, how to do the introduction, set it up, structure it, and really just gave me the tools and resources to be successful. She gave me the guidance, but also equipment and, just also the knowledge from her experience. I'll never forget my first podcast was to highlight the diversity on campus. Everybody thinks of Northeast as an ag campus. I was bro, there's people from Brazil here that I played soccer with. So my goal was just interview those guys and gals. And one of the first interviews we were talking, and she was listening in, and she goes, I'm not going to interrupt. You guys just go. And then if I say something, I'll say it. And my friends were talking about in Rio when they bulldozed all these housing complexes down to build the World Cup place. And I just skimmed right over that to the next question. She goes, hold on. Let's go deeper into that. And so that was my first taste of storytelling and using podcast media to communicate, things across the internet. I was also the digital ad manager, so I managed their ads that we sold on the website. Got my experience with WordPress as much as I want to love that.
Love that. Or not.
Yeah, and then Wade Hurley was Dr. Wade Hurley was a big mentor along with my FBLA crew. They really, I did a couple different like community service projects. We competed at nationals with a couple different like social media, community service things. And really those experiences really pointed me in the right direction to say, oh, I love media. I love storytelling. I'm good at some of these things, and I'm good at like, yo, can you help me with this? Come over here and help me with this. And so I realized what kind of founder I was. I'm kind of the conductor. And Dr. Wade Hurley was like, you got to go to you have to go to a university and just like round out your time there. Like, I think you'll just be way more polished on the other side. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I went to UNL and got super involved in marketing, major, minor in entrepreneurship, and then just found Startups UNL, which was like a student community dedicated to helping people like build and grow, the ideas. And obviously entrepreneurs are one of those people that they want to build something, and, not everybody is going to go from start to finish on ideas, but just being in an area where people will talk about ideas and, will try to take the first step was a blast. And I was surrounded by some really great people there. And I started to really develop my skills as a leader, as like the president of that organization, and how to like lead this team to be able to like, do stuff.
Right. So a little bit in there, you anecdotally kind of talk about you volunteered for things, you led for things, like signed up to be a leader. How has that helped shape, or was that kind of just an organic, hey, I'm comfortable in this position, or was it outside of your comfort zone? And is that how you're able to lead a team now as a founder?
No, and that was kind of a long-winded way to say like all these experiences helped me build XPM, and like
Right.
The world was like, we want video, we want media, we want social media, and the way that marketing has kind of evolved is those directions like content.
Right.
And so to your question about leadership, that was a big thing that I like learned in college. I think leadership is earned, not learned. Mm-hmm. And so really it's trial by fire. Right? I made some pretty tough decisions and like learned from those things. And then after I graduated, I was like, wow, I don't have this team anymore. But then I started like building with, Anna Fiala as my co-founder, and we started building together, and it was like just restarted the whole cycle of like build the team, meet on Wednesday mornings, and just keep kind of like chugging away at it. So that's kind of the birth of XPM, was just really doing side hustle projects to get myself through school, and then also just being super involved to understand what are my strengths and weaknesses, where do I play best at on a team, and how do I continue to see opportunity from the world and meet that opportunity. And leadership was a really important part of like where we've been able to build the team today and manage that to be able to continue to like grow. People are hard to manage. Right, Gage? Gage is hanging out behind the camera. So
that's awesome. Before we go any further too, I want to maybe peek a little behind the curtain of where are you from? Did you grow up small town Nebraska? How has that worked? How does that play into, this big ambiguous startup founder? I mean, everyone thinks I have to go to San Francisco or the coast or Boston to really be in a startup ecosystem. How has that been being in a small town Nebraska?
I really wanted to go to UC Berkeley. That was like up there, but I just did not have the springboard to be able to get there. But I did grow up in Neely, Nebraska for the remainder of my college or my high school career. So junior, senior year, I was in Neely. Before that, I lived in Stanton, but graduated again, rural system, not really any great, resources to be able to like, I was also like just a wild card. I was like a tornado. I was like, I just want to build stuff. I want to break stuff, And so, with working with me, I move at like a kind of a weird pace. So being from the Midwest, it was definitely, or like the rural community, it was tough because I always suffered from like that imposter syndrome. But as I started to find and be in circles, at Northeast, I found people that were like me. And then at Lincoln, I found like 10X people that were like me, that were just, iron sharpens iron. So I was around these people that were smarter than me, better than me, and really inspired me to continue to push in those directions. So I think finding those communities is what really helped me continue to like become the founder that I am today. And I'm still not like where we wanted. I'm still 26. I got a lot of life left. Yeah.
You got plenty of time. I mean, I have heard Northeast is basically the UC Berkeley of the Midwest, but
yeah, Northeast checks that box.
Yeah. I mean, it is great, and it's cool. I think it's important for people to hear. We talk to founders who it's either a second career or they didn't go to college. They don't have some of that background. So I think it is important for people to know, like, you can put it together. It doesn't have to be a completely linear path. So to build on that a bit, not to get too punny, but building a business, especially in smaller markets, can be challenging. So what are some of the biggest hurdles you've faced early on with XPM, being where you're at, how you've really overcome those? Like, what are those challenges that you remember? or experience?
My only real job I've ever had was selling shoes at Trade Home Shoes. And then also I was like the assistant manager at Hibbets, which literally was just a transition down the hallway. But that really taught me a lot of sales skills and fundamentally how do I sell something. And I think that, growing up and doing the experience that I did, some of the challenges that I did face was like the community side of it. That's why I love Intersect and 1 Million Cups. And then when I transferred to UNL back in the day, or a few years ago, being surrounded by those young founders that really wanted to like build stuff, but also getting connected with mentors. I think the challenges that I have faced is just my inexperience. I've never really had a real job, or nobody's taught me how to do these things. So I've just, for the last 10 years, just been throwing stuff at the wall and figuring out, oh, this worked. Let's do more of that. Let's not do some of this. Sometimes I still bang my head on some things and I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should know by now not to do that. But then I'm able to reach out to these mentors. You yourself being a marketer and professional, we've definitely had great conversations. And then as well as our community here, just having those mentors that are willing to reach out and say, hey, like, one quote is, you can learn through pain or wisdom. And recently I've just been trying to seek out more wisdom, because those people are out there willing to sit down and have coffee and, help you get to the next point and maybe circumvent some pain. I think some of that you have to learn on your own, but I think, just as a young founder, that's probably what I struggle with the most, is just, this is my first rodeo. And we're just trying to figure it out as I go and work with great people and, leverage the mentor network that I have.
Yeah, definitely. Going back to like college basketball days, we always said we learn more from losses than we do wins, but you don't always want to be the smartest person in a room. You don't want to lose day after day, but facing those and learning from those is always important. Was there, those challenges? I mean, rest in peace to entry-level work. That doesn't happen anymore. We want to hire someone entry level, but you need 3 to 5 years experience. So it's always a big challenge. Was there ever a moment where you were like, damn, I don't know if this is going to work?
Every day, man. Not every day, but definitely there are days that are way harder than others when you have to figure out, is the friction right now we're facing worth it? Or is there something we can do differently? I look at like the Snuggie guy who made millions of dollars off of the Snuggie, and I'm like, I have a smart enough team. We could do a Snuggie,
Right.
Worst case scenario. But I think that, as I grow in my role, it's how to make better decisions too, coming back to your question of being, what was your question? Come back to that.
Was there a moment where you're like, maybe this doesn't work?
Yeah, maybe a moment that this doesn't work. I think we're still figuring out what our business model is. I tell people we've been kind of under the radar for the last 3-ish years, just building, just figuring out how do we assemble the team, who do we need on the team, what does the market want, and we've just been building or growing through like organic growth. So somebody refers us to this company, or somebody refers us these leads, and I've got a great network that has been willing to invest in us and also get, some work from that. But, really that's how we've grown the business right now. And honestly, I'm super excited. This year, we're actually going to like launch into the world and become like an official company. You heard it here first.
There's also just parts of it where you have to sit back and realize, even large companies, big companies, my previous employers, I look back and I see what they're working on. I would say the last 5 years in business are some of the hardest for anyone, let alone someone starting, trying to identify a niche, let alone just how we're going to build this business is I would say unprecedented. I've never tried to start a business in any other time, but I would say that this is one of those times where you're like, as long as you're afloat, you're floating,
Well, and right now we're facing some really unprecedented things. Technology is moving at almost the fastest pace. Not ever. I mean, we've definitely had faster paces, I think, with some of the like .com and stuff, but we're seeing a similar thing with AI right now that is really changing the way that we work and the systems we build. And so one of the valuable things that we get to do is we've not learned for 20 years how to do something that way. We've kind of grown up with this technological evolution, and now we've been able to build systems around this technology shift, and also have built our boat so that we can go left or right based on what happens next. Right. Versus, we have this one system and we do it this way. We're pretty adaptable and flexible to the direction that the market goes.
Mm-hmm. I'd almost say, I think as you look at younger founders, younger businesses, just in general, there is a lot more agility there. There's a lot more ability for risk. You can make some of those changes, and I think that sometimes is an undervalued prospect in that like, hey, we're learning, but we learn a little quicker. We're a lot more agile. We're used to this influx of information. So that I always think of that too as you're working through these things. So let's move a little more. Let's talk about how you got connected with Intersect, kind of the space, the ecosystem, Norfolk. What does that look like, and how did you get here?
How did I get here? I mean, shout out to Grams. I live with my grandma right now. She's held me down. So I graduated from UNL in 2022 and joined forces with Anna Fiala, my co-founder and chief creative officer, creative director. And I immediately went to Europe right after that. Spent all my money and just wanted to see the world. And, I needed a place to touch down. And my grandma's was that touchdown spot. So moved back in with my grandma and I will never forget, Intersect wasn't even open. You and I had connected at a couple other things. And I knew that it was on the horizon. And I was like, I need to work not in my house, because my grandma was like, you're not really working in there, like you should take out the trash or do these chores. And
remote work with family.
Remote work.
It's just, nope, been there, done that.
Yeah. So that was probably, you let me in here before it was even technically open, I think.
Say like 2022, summer into fall of 2022.
It's definitely like fall of 2022. I was like, I had to get out as fast as possible. And really that was my first office space-ish, other than Turbine Flats, is like coffee shop and library. And when I made that move here, I was like, also we talked about like ecosystem development, and that's something that I'm like super passionate about, coming from the university with the Startups UNL, and also being a 1 Million Cups representative there. I was like, I want to bring what I've learned and the energy I have to Norfolk to keep helping other people grow and do the thing. And so we started brainstorming on building Norfolk and all these other, things that we've been chatting about. And I think when I first moved here, like it was just me and Anna, like, grinding away. Like I probably oversold and undervalued the work, and we just did a lot of just random odds and end things. And also lived with their parents at the time, and we just kind of bootstrapped it and got a little bit of cash flow, and would hire another contractor and would keep kind of growing. And we started with, here at Intersect, we had just me and Anna, and then now we've got 7 people
awesome.
Total, which is super crazy 2 years later. I mean, every year it seems like we doubled the amount of people, and all the stories, memory, and pain in between.
Yeah, there's good time. It's all good. No, that's crazy just to hear the growth and having that ability to do so. Oh, go ahead.
What I was going to round out, having a space like Intersect to be able to peek out and bother people, and like water cooler talk, has really helped me cope with the working online. Our team is entirely remote. And so that has really helped me feel like I've got a sense of community, and I have like an office where I could talk to people, and like I still have mentors that I can bounce ideas off of, and it doesn't feel like I'm on my own island.
Yeah. I worked remote for 6 years. It's one of my favorite working styles. I do 100% support it. I can never work in a traditional office ever again, but I would say the culture and that ecosystem or community is so pivotal to success. And I think that was one of the biggest motivators for this space, is we were building it and building out programming. And what we wanted is, hey, there's going to be people who do work alone, let alone most likely going to be remote workers or startup founders, completely isolated. Just having someone to talk to, whether it's, hey, I have this idea, or, oh my God, I hate taxes. Like, I can't help you, but I can get you someone who can. So that is just one of the biggest things that I've wanted to see out of the space, and love that it is. And our water cooler gets a lot of action. We have so many fun conversations. It's what it's there for, though.
And my entire journey through XPM has been supported by spaces and people willing to say whatever you want to build in this space. You've given us some flexibility, and you've also given us flexibility in the podcast room and those things. And I think, that has been a huge mover of the needle for me, just as a young person, to just have somebody say, hey, here's this thing, like we kind of want to do these things, like just be here and like let's figure it out, and that's really helped us be able to have like the conference room, to be able to have professional meetings, to hopefully as we continue to grow the podcast and like other people move here, so we can have a nice studio space.
Absolutely. It's removing those barriers. You're never going to uncover the next great thing if you don't open the door for it. So I think that's something I'm personally really passionate about.
You'll never discover the next great thing if you don't open the door for it. That's great.
I mean, this is recording, right? Because that was
yeah, let's
good.
clip that
Let's clip that. But out of the things you've got to do, what's here, what are some of the resources or programs or parts of Intersect and just the ecosystem in Norfolk, Northeast Nebraska that have really been maybe your favorites or have done the most impact for you?
The programs and resources that have been the most impactful for me, really honestly, like just you as being like having the patience and like willingness to let us like, commandeer a space for a while. And like, the ability to say, hey, like we're here to help you like grow. And like, that's what we want you to do. We want you to grow in this space. And I think just that support has been foundational. But I think also in the same point, the 1 million cups and every Wednesday, like just in the morning those are my big idea visionary days, because I get to talk about business and find community. I like to talk a lot, and I like to talk to people, and I like to figure out what are you struggling with right now? Like what do you see in the world? We have a lot of great conversations about AI, technology, honestly, just conversations about just random things in general, sometimes not even business related, but 1 million cups has been a really solid foundation, 1 million cups has been a solid foundation for me to have that community and be able to get outside of my office to actually have bigger picture conversations about business, business models. What do you think, this person should do? How, like, just ideas, and how can we collaborate to help the community grow, or maybe a specific individual grow, has been awesome, and also helped me stay in touch with my futuristic and like visionary like personality. Sometimes I get really deep in the weeds on XPM because you just got to do that sometimes. And that every Wednesday I can just get pulled back out to this like conversation and get rejuvenated about ideas, energy. So I think that has been a huge program for me. I've been able to meet so many people. I probably worked with half of our 1 million cup space. We just did a shoot with one of our members, or one of the community members, and that's like a lot of fun, and so excited for that. And I think the other speakers that we bring in too, they've had a great opportunity to just share, right, NBDC and some of those other programs.
Yeah, I think it really does kind of center on that trust and the community sense of everything. It's not a professional networking, like here's my business card, here's my 3 referrals that I have. It's such an organic conversation. And it's really exciting to see the differences. It rolls right into my next question perfectly. But are there any like specific success stories or wins that really stick out to you that this wouldn't have happened without our community here?
I love one specifically. I shout out to Kim with the gluten-free experience. Yep. And I just signed up. Not
just for her baking, but it is so good.
I did just sign up for to get muffins once a month from her. I was like, I just want I want to bring my grandma blueberry muffins once a month.
Muffins monthly. There we go.
Yeah, and I will never forget when she came and she was talking about, I got this thing. It's been fun. I don't really know what's going on. Just an expert at baking. And there was one meeting where we were all just going around in a circle, and we were just giving updates. It was like the open coffee, and we're just like, what's going on in your life? And Kim mentioned that she was about to just leave her job full time and do this full time. And so we went and saw her go from, hey, I have this idea and I think people want my muffins, to, hey, I think I'm going to leave my job, to now she's like pitched us the business plan, and now she's growing. And I'm like, I love seeing that. I mean, there's other handfuls of stories, Dustin being able to build some apps with Ryan and be able to, enter into the category of entrepreneur and be able to say, I am an entrepreneur. Like I'm looking for a problem to solve, to be able to then grow and scale. Whether it be scale into like a lifestyle business or scale into like, the museum app for everyone, in the United States. But
no, I agree. It's really cool to see those and helping people identify themselves as an entrepreneur. We talk about imposter syndrome, but I also think people from the Midwest just systemically are awful about talking about themselves, at least the ones you want to hear from. But having that community and seeing people build that it's really been astounding.
It's almost like AA for entrepreneurs, though. I could come in and be like, I struggle with this. And I was like, here.
I mean, truly, as we talk about 1MC, we've been hosting events since October of 22. Like, we've really just always had this group, and it's rural. We're smaller network, smaller audience. So this year, focusing on our previous speakers and reaching out to them and saying, hey, we want you to come back, talk about what you're struggling with, A, to help brainstorm, find a solution for you, but B, I guarantee you other people in the room are having the same experiences. So watching the evolution of that in our community has been a lot of fun too. So as we talk through all of this, like, what would be some of the biggest lessons you've learned? So we'll do that, like biggest lesson learned, and then one piece of advice you would give someone starting a business.
I really want to like stand up here and say I learned all these great things, and this is the one piece of advice for that person struggling. I think for me, the biggest lesson I've learned is to figure out how to be the best person I can be and optimize my life to be able to fit into like the work life. Early stage founders and early stage XPM was just like grinding every weekend, all these things. And I'd never had a time to have like a personal life or do these things. So now that we're like year 3 in here, I've really tried to create boundaries, but also figure out how I work best. And I think I'll never forget, somebody told me that working at 150% productivity does not look like you're in your office for 15 hours a day. That looks like going on runs, eating healthy, getting the 8 hours of sleep, and being an optimized person to get the most out of your life. So that was probably the biggest lesson for me is, I need to know how I work best and also communicating that to my team. I'm I have to talk through things. So when we're making decisions, I'm throwing 15 different things out on the wall, and they're also like all different and contrarian to each other, And so sometimes I can give my team like, oh, boom, 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 where are we going? And I just have to talk it out. So that's one, big lesson for me is learning how do I communicate and how do I work best. And then I would say my piece of advice, I don't really have a lot of experience at the moment to really say this is the one thing you need to do. But the biggest thing for me that was a game changer is just learning about my strengths and weaknesses. And, those strengths, how do I play best on the team? And then weaknesses are usually the things that get me in trouble. So the Clifton Strengths Assessment has really helped me understand like my basements and balconies and where I'm the most intense and where I need to make sure I'm communicating most effectively to the team. And then I just took this thing called the Culture Index. And one of my mentors, he reached out and was like, hey, you should take this and I'd love to review it with you. And that was a huge insight to this is how you work regularly if you just were outside of work. And this is how you work right now at work. And it was like flip-flopped. And I was like, oh, like that's why I have so much tension right now in my role is because I'm doing things that I just wouldn't naturally do.
Right.
And that was hard. So helping me, that really just realized to me, I need to take a step back and make sure, hey, I'm going to delegate these things. And then I'm going to have, this other person do these things because that's just not my cup of tea. I want to play best where I play best. And that was, for somebody who's looking to have like a partnership or a founder or a co-founder relationship, having somebody that you can balance out and communicate how you work best.
Right. It's such a dichotomy when you look at like hustle culture, startup founders. I am, again, super passionate about, setting boundaries at work. Working remote for a large corporate company, that was like 60, 80-hour work weeks. That's just not sustainable and finding that. So I think it's a huge lesson. I think it's very undervalued. People just kind of forget, yes, you're here, you're working on this. You might be a solo founder right now, but finding that support network to help fill the gaps because you can't be good at everything. If you are, props, come say hi. We'd love to meet you, but it is a really important piece. So that's awesome. Go ahead.
I would just say the last piece for me is also just, it will always be hard. And like I was telling you when you asked, do you ever think that it wouldn't work? I mean, every day it's a new adventure. I go to work and like something could happen and okay, we got to figure out taxes now. We got to figure out, how do we do the W-2 thing? How do we W-2 everyone? How do we move away from 1099 contractors or there's just these questions that things happen and we got to figure out how do we do that? Now, how do we create a 2025 budget forecast and follow that? And who's the next person we hire? We're getting to that stage now where we are figuring out how do we grow and how do we scale. And there's so many pain points that it's like gets overwhelming if it's just you. So having that mentor or the community and a team that is willing to work through those pain points and stay positive. I think that's the other thing. And we just did like a review today, and it was like start, stop, go, and we're like all these problems, but we're like, but also all these wins. So celebrating the wins is also my last piece of advice.
There you go. Every week I try to write down a win because it's so hard to look back and say like, what did I do? And it's just write down those wins, screenshot those emails you get from someone. If it's a client, if it's a colleague, screenshot it, throw it in a folder. You have it there for those rainy days. What's next? What's next for XPM? And then what's next for this podcast?
World domination. I mean, honestly, what's next for XPM is, this year we're going to roll out our website and start getting active on our social medias and actually start to kind of put what we're doing in the world out there. And hopefully we can find some more medium-sized companies that are looking to get the most out of their marketing. And hopefully we can continue to service those companies and clients and get some wins for them. We really want to be a strategic growth partner and help them really, get to the next level and think of new ways of thinking. And again, leverage also this new technology that's coming down. So I also have a side hustle called Hi AI, where I want to help small businesses say hi to AI and get the most out of it. That's something that is really disrupting things. And I want to help, depending on what the market shakes down to, but I want to help those small business owners really get the most out of these tools, really help them understand how can I make this more efficient or better, or how do we really lean on it, but also where are the areas where we don't lean on it. Like you still need good creativity, you still need people to do things, but I think it's just optimizing those workflows for success. So what's next looks like we're just going to continue to do what we've been doing and hopefully continue to tell our story and how we can help the communities, the businesses in the Midwest.
Nice. Love that. That's awesome. I think it all kind of plays in as we talk about community too, this podcast. We really want to take this kind of to that next level, extend those conversations we have on Wednesday mornings. We can try and live stream. It's always an interesting attempt, but, extending those conversations to another platform, to more people. But what do you see for Build in Norfolk as a podcast to come up?
I hope if you're listening to this, let us know what you think. What do you want to see? What do you want to see right now? Curious. I'm really excited. What's next for Build in Norfolk, I think, is just continuing to tell those stories of people who are building in Norfolk. And I really hope that we are able to tell that story and then magnify it through social media and these channels to really get the other people out of those cracks and crevices who need that support system in that meeting every Wednesday morning to get rebalanced, to just be able to come with, hey, I'm struggling with this. Anybody struggle with this thing? Like, I need help with my email, or my domain is broken, and let's fix it. Let's help you fix that thing. So what's next for the podcast is we're just going to keep telling stories and being vocal about what we're doing, and hopefully we can continue to help our community grow and get some big wins. Yeah, definitely. And as we talk about the stories and what we want to hear, we'll do the full journey. Like, there's going to be wins, there's going to be fun things to talk through, and then some of those struggles, that we experience and people see. So you're not alone. So if you can't make it, you can maybe listen to this, catch an episode and say, all right, okay, I'm not the only one feeling that. So I'm excited for that, to bring some of those resources to more people, just talk to more people than maybe what we see inside our doors, and get them those things that they need. So let's see. I think those are all the questions I really have. Is there anything else that I missed today that you wanted to drop a knowledge bomb before we wrap up? I think as a founder, as a community member, I think just showing up is super important. So every single morning, I want to see you at Intersect Coworking. We do have a lot of coffee pods, but every Wednesday at 9 a.m. we do 1 million cups most of the time. I mean, depending on the weather and some of those things, but pretty much every Wednesday at 9 a.m. there's going to be somebody here to hang out with you and just talk through some things. So I would say just show up to those things and come say hi to us. It's like the front porch step to the Nebraska entrepreneurial ecosystem. You and I both have networks that span beyond Norfolk, and hopefully we can help the next person get the most out of their, whatever problems they have, help them flourish like a flower. There we go. Right? Not one that I bought from Amazon. Put together. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Hunter. It's awesome. I've loved watching the way you've built XPM, building our community, growing the ecosystem here. And to everybody listening, thank you for listening today. And if you liked it, follow, subscribe, share us on social media. We really want to get this out to as many people as we can. Let's go. Let's build Norfolk. Boom.